Proper notice of this open meeting was provided in the notice of January 4th, 2024. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education offices, mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, sent to Tap into Nutley, advertised in the Nutley 4th, 2024, and posted on the district website. Would everybody please stand for the flag salute? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Mr. DeVito?
Mr. Balsamo.
Here.
Mr. Battaglia.
Here.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin.
Here.
Dr. Dalia.
Here.
Mr. Fraginels. Mr. Kaczynski.
Here.
Mrs. Quirk.
Here.
Mr. Scotty.
Here.
Mr. Ferraro.
Here. Any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Okay, Mr. Banya, are we going to have presentations?
Thank you. I'd like to invite the board down to the auditorium seats for 3 presentations. Ian, can you please put down the screen? I got it. We're good. Thank you, Dennis. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our September board meeting. At this meeting, we have 3 presentations scheduled. 2 are compliance-based, and 1 is a very generous donation to support our students. During this evening, we will present to you our spring testing cycle data per compliance dictates, as well as our last year HIP grades, self-assessment HIP grades first. So I want to thank you for coming tonight, and I want to draw your attention to the presentation. This would be present our spring testing cycle data. The state has 3 mechanisms for reporting data. This is one of them. We get our scores in August. We will compile them in 100% stack columns to look for year-to-year growth. We'll present that publicly. This presentation, parents should expect to receive their individual score reports mailed home to their homes. That should come during the first week of October, and that would complete the cycle. These scores are also used in our school performance reports, as well as to calculate MSGPs for teachers and other things of that nature, as well as in the QSEC process for instruction and program. Next slide, Ian. So I'd like to say understanding of this data is just one part of the cycle for continuous improvement. We take the data, we look at it all different ways, from a 30,000-foot lens to an individual lens. The state issues evidence statement reports, which I'm sure we'll reference throughout this presentation. They help us understand how our students are doing based on standard compared to the state and other schools in our district. This is one mechanism we have for understanding progress for students. It is, again, state testing data. We also have a battery of diagnostic and internal common assessment data. When used together, when used with discipline, attendance, behavioral data, it starts painting a picture of our students and our progress. All this data comes to us and helps us understand how we could better our schools and our program for continuous student improvement. So this is part of a cycle of curriculum, instruction, assessment, and reflection. We will be reflecting on this data as department and building meetings move forward. To get this data into our data warehouse, Performance Matters adds another layer of analysis, which we're happy to use in district. So I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Solo, who's going to present out the elementary data shortly. But I just want to remind the public and the people at home that every spring, there's a window of opportunity for our students to take various ELA and math assessments in grades 3 through middle school. And then in high school, they take the algebra, the ELA 9, and we're transitioning over to GPA. There's also a battery of science assessments in grades 5, 8, and 11 that we present data. And we also have our AP testing data to show you the numbers of tests taken of that nature. But there are 5 scoring levels for the state: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The idea is to have students meet or exceed expectations level 4 and 5. Yellow would be approaching expectations. Partial meeting expectations would be the orange, and does not meet the expectations, that's level 1. So as you move forward in this presentation, it will be color coded to show you trends over time, year to year, in these 5 different areas.
Thank you. So just to Mr. Bain's point, I'll start by just giving some background information of the graphs we're looking at here. These are 100% stacked columns. So you'll see the different performance levels in different colors here. This is grade 3 ELA first, then we'll go back and do math. So we're going to start with ELA grade 3. Here you'll also see along the bottom the years, the past 3 years of testing data. It's important to note that this is the first time in a while that we've had 3 consecutive years of data since pre-COVID, right? Because we went 2 years, there was that gap of information. So now we're getting back to a place where we can look year over year, 3 years in a row. And what you'll see here is all the way to the left, the state scores, New Jersey. I know it's a little difficult to read. Next to it is the district, Nutley, and then 5 of our elementary schools. So I'll go piece by piece and slide by slide. So the ELA NJSLA, which is the English Language Arts, consists of selected response and open response questions that are accompanied by reading passages. So here you'll see the district scores above the state average for students meeting and exceeding standards, and they score right at or maybe slightly below in meeting exceeding from the previous year. If you get the blue and the green combined is what we're talking about when we're saying meeting or exceeding. Or combining that. And that's a common measure that the state uses as well. Next slide. Okay. Here you'll see the district scored above state averages for students meeting and exceeding standards again, with a slight dip here from our previous year in meeting and exceeding. Still a state, but you'll see a slight dip there. Can you go back for 1 second, Ian? I'm sorry. So when we see a dip like this, we ask ourselves some questions, and I think it's important. I'll use one for an example to kind of walk you through what the next steps look like. So we ask ourselves, did the state see a dip overall, right? And when we look all the way to the left, we see the state was pretty much where they were the previous year. So then we ask ourselves questions about the student population that took the assessment and how that population may have been different than the previous years, right? Each class coming up, we refer to as their own cohort. So some cohorts just based on the makeup of the students well over time, and some may struggle, and we see trends with that as well. The third thing that we look at that's really actionable is something called evidence statements, which the state releases that gives more information than a simple raw score student. Evidence statements actually show all of the standards that were assessed and how students did on specific standards. So instead of just looking at a raw score and saying that our students maybe a lower percentage met or exceeded expectations, we can actually drill down to the evidence statements. And when I did that for this specifically, it looked like there were questions around informational text reading and evidence-based short response questions. So this is really helpful data and actionable data for our teachers, because we can look back in our ELA curriculum, we can look at our nonfiction units, and we can see how we're preparing students and if there's something we might be able to do differently. Okay, next slide. So here you'll see the district scored above the state average for students meeting or exceeding standards, and increase the percentage of students meeting or exceeding grade level standards as well here for 5th grade. I will say this was a data set for us. 5th grade last year departmentalized. It was a big initiative in district, and we were excited to see how that translated into NJSLA data. I also wanted to just celebrate here under Spring Garden. You'll see 95% of students meeting or exceeding standards there. The third column, the third grouping of columns from the left there with that long green. So you'll see the exceeding and the meeting to equal 95%. So definitely something to celebrate there. And again, if you look at this year's data, meeting and exceeding, we increased, and look at the exceeding category, which is the blue, right? So we're finding that departmentalization approach can really help, push some of our students to the next level as well. In sixth grade ELA, again, there was an increase in students meeting or exceeding expectations. And specifically, there was a decrease in students not meeting expectations, which is what we want to see, right? We want to see an increase in the blue and the green, but we want to see a decrease in the yellow and the orange or the lighter color there, and a decrease in the red. So when you see that, when you see the green and the blue increasing and you see the bottom decreasing, that's a good sign. Overall, Washington School, for this specific data set, we had over half the grade level exceeding or meeting expectations, and Washington and Radcliffe had 90% of students meeting or exceeding. That's a huge celebration. So if you look there at Radcliffe and Washington, you'll see their green bars there going all the way down to 10%. So that's 90% of students meeting or exceeding, and only that bottom 10 that were partially or approaching or not meeting. I'm going to hand over the presentation to Kent to talk about middle school, high school ELA, and then I'll be back to discuss math.
So in seventh grade, we saw a little retraction in blue and green from the previous year. We are still greater than state data coming in as we see in any district. When you shift buildings from sixth grade to seventh grade, there's typically a change in data sets as students learn routines, different teaching practices, and different approaches. In eighth grade, though, you can see we slightly grew in both blue and green, and red is going down as well. So when we look at this from 30,000 feet from looking from far away, it looks like we're moving in the right direction in seventh and eighth grade. Again, to the point, just to recap some of the data Janine was sharing, in third and fourth grade, we saw varying data sets of retraction and growth. What we want to see as we go up grade levels is continuous growth as our curriculum spirals on itself from year to year, and our routine should be consistent as students age through our system. Very similar ELA curriculum as we progress. In ninth grade, the high school data is becoming more and more skewed as time goes on, as students will take one assessment, then move to the GPA. It's becoming a graduation assessment in New Jersey. It's shifted probably 3 or 4 times in my tenure, and it's going to shift to the NJ GPA as time goes on. So students will take varying assessments, which will end in a graduation assessment in GPA, and that data we'll share with you toward the end of this presentation. We're going to move over to math.
Thank you. So we'll go backwards again. Now we'll start with grade 3, specifically at the math NJSLA. So here again, you'll see the state, the district, and our 5 elementary schools. The district is the second from the right, and that purple box is this year's district data, which I'm referencing. So here you'll see the district score above state average for students meeting or exceeding expectations. And you'll also see here an increase if you look at something like Washington specifically, right? If you look at their blue section for exceeding expectations, that pretty much more than doubled since the previous year. And if you look at their red for Washington, big decrease in the percentage of students not meeting expectations. So that's the kind of thing that we want to see. We want to see, look at Lincoln there next to the district, and you'll see last year's red, and then look at this year's red, right? We're decreasing that population of students not meeting expectations, which is really important to us. Again, with grade 4 here, you'll see the district scored above the average in meeting or exceeding expectations, but there is a slight decrease in students meeting or exceeding expectations from the previous year. So again, we looked at some evidence statements and did data dive there. We're also looking at that cohort of students, but we're looking specifically in numbers in operation in base 10 and numbers in operation fractions as areas that we want to look at in our curriculum to see, are we meeting the standards completely? Are we covering it too late in the year as far as where our pacing guide and where the testing window falls? So just it's a good starting point for conversation as well. Fifth grade math, you'll see the district scored above state average here and above the previous years. Again, grade 5 departmentalized, allowing for more dedicated time for our content area teachers so they could really focus on one or two content areas and really master their craft in a little bit more of a deliberate way. So we're seeing that pay off with an increase in students exceeding, an increase in students meeting, and a decrease in students not meeting or partially meeting. All good things. For grade 6 math, you'll see, again, steady growth in meeting and exceeding grade level expectations, far above the state average here again. I will recognize here Washington's growth. If you look there at their blue section from last year and this year, a jump, and look at their green section there, a nice increase in meeting and exceeding combined. And I will pass the presentation over to Mr. Bainio to talk a little bit about science.
First math and science, but from 6th to 7th grade is where the district starts tracking math students, as many districts do. So leaving 6th grade students will take assessments and qualify for algebra if they so choose. That's usually about 25 students get placed in an algebra class, and those students will be taken out of the grade 7 math data and incorporated in the algebra 1 assessment data. So this data, the pool starts shrinking as you go up in math, but you can see some growth as we go from last year to this year. Ian, can you go to 8th grade? So in 8th grade, we have another 75 students qualify for Algebra 1, and the 25 students that were in Algebra 1 now take geometry in 8th grade. So we start shifting, this pool starts shrinking a little more. So you have about 200 students in this pool, and or 200, about 175 to 200 students. And you'll see continuous growth, definitely more than the state. And we want to see at least growth moving forward as well. When you go to Algebra 1, the next slide, this would include 2 schools, Nutley High School, as well as John H. Walker Middle School. This includes the students either in 7th grade or in 8th grade in John Walker. Nutley High School students take Algebra 1 at various grade levels. Most take it as freshmen, but it can move up through the different grade levels. They'll sit for the Algebra 1 assessment following that. So you'll see a little retraction from John H. Walker Middle School. That sample size is about 75 to 100 students. And then you'll see Nutley High School, that sample size is about 100 students that continuously take Algebra 1. Students are phasing out of Algebra 1 in high school to take the NJ GPA. That also impacts this data, and we'll present the graduation assessment data at the end of this presentation. I'm going to keep going with science. So in science, science shifts to 4 grade bands in science. I'm still not sure why the state does that, but they moved from 5 bands to 4 bands. And they also shifted a year ago from testing grade 6 to grade 5. So we've moved where we're testing. We've also moved the bands, how we report out. You can see this was an area of focus for us from last year. You can see some growth there, which is we're very happy to see the green and the blue moving from grade 5 from 23 to 23 and 24. So we do show our curriculum, our scope and sequence starting to align with the assessment. I know we put a lot of time and effort into designing questions like they see on the assessment, as well as teaching the curriculum with fidelity in these areas as we move through. In 8th grade, Ian, you can see similar testing results as we had the previous year, still slightly higher than the state scores, and the same in 11th grade. You see a little bit of growth there. All of our science data went up slightly more so in 5th grade than in 8th grade and 11th grade. Ian, can you move on to the NJGPA? So now the state gives graduation assessments where you have students that are ready and not ready to graduate from a high school in New Jersey. The blue indicates students that are ready and the red not ready. As you can see, we grew slightly in percentages from last year to this year at Nutley High School, and we are about 25 percentage points better than the state in this area. And in ELA, you can see we're at about 90% students are ready to graduate when they sit for this assessment, and the state has grown tremendously in this area as well over time, which allows you to believe either the cut score has changed or the test has been recalibrated or more districts are following the curriculum very closely to the standards. We do have a slide for AP data. Just to track how this is going at. This is a common set of data we're looking at for a couple reasons. It's an indicator of success in college for our students. It's also an indicator for some of the ranking systems, and many people are interested in a couple different data sets. So we're looking at the number of students that took at least one AP test. In 21-22 was 189 to 205 to 248 students. The number of AP tests taken, so one student could take multiple AP exams. That number went from 349 to 384 to now 495. That's a significant data set right there. This means more of our students have access to more AP classes and are taking advantage of that access either through our schedule or through different mechanisms. It may also mean that we're starting to prepare students better for the AP program. As they age up, they feel more comfortable taking multiple AP courses. And then the ultimate indicator is how many students score a 3 or better. That's usually the standard for college credit acceptance. 107, of course, this is skewed by how many tests are taken and how many students take the test. 117, 153, 193. So we're seeing more production in these 3 key areas, which is important for us as a district. Did you want to talk about WIDA or
So the WIDA assessment is the access assessment, also known as it measures the L's or multilingual learners' ability to understand and produce English used within school settings. So there's 4 sections of this assessment. There's a listening, a reading, a speaking, and a writing. And access does meet the federal requirements under Every Child Succeeds Act for monitoring. So this data may look familiar. You did see it on the performance reports when we presented a few months ago. But here you can just look and see over time the number of students who are being tested in our L population continues to grow. So we're at 154 now for 2024. And then next to it, you'll see the students who scored a 4.5 or above. And then percentage of students who scored that. So you'll see the good news is that we continue to diversify and we continue to have students coming with experiences in other language. And just depending on where their language proficiency is that given year and that cohort that's added to the group, you may see less students scoring that 4.5, but that just may mean they need more time in our ESL program. So, thank you.
So that concludes our data presentation. This is a compliance-based presentation. Every district has to present by October 31st. We typically do this in October. We're doing it in September in hopes that we can get our individual student reports out sooner. The goal of this data is to ask questions, to reflect on our curriculum and the programs we're offering, and to make sure we're looking at the best ways to support students. So this is a constant cycle, and we're now at the cycle where we'll be asking a lot of questions in district and looking at the whys, the hows, cohort data, and different pieces like that. I do want to turn this over to another mandatory reporting portion, our HIB assessments, or annual self-assessments. I want to thank Ms. Lopin-Solo as she sits for presenting. Thank you so much for putting this together in the presentation. And our work has just begun to break this down, but we do appreciate presenting out. This is our school self-assessment for determining grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. So this also is being done a month earlier in hopes that we could move other things along and talk through things. So next slide, please. So each year in the period of the year July 1st to June 30th, so this would be last year's cycle, we need to, each building needs to do a self-assessment in 8 critical areas with a rubric by obtaining documentation and making files. They then rate themselves 0 through 3 based on how they did in that indicator. The scores are compiled, submitted to the state, presented, a board resolution submitted to the state as we move forward to make sure we're meeting the characteristics of the anti-bullying Bill of Rights. So 0 through 3, and we must maintain sufficient documentation in district to support these findings. So just to walk through the indicators, one indicator is that we have HIB programs, approaches, or other initiatives designed. We have the National Bullying Month coming up. We have the Week of Respect coming up. We have a lot of things coming up right now in October for this. We have training on the BOE on HIB policy and procedures, not only to our staff members, but to everyone involved in our community. We have other instructional programs and staff training programs, suicide prevention, anti-bullying specialists provided time to talk to their relative buildings regarding these things. Next slide, Ian. Curriculum instruction. So embedded within our curriculum instruction, we have lessons involved with bullying, harassment, intimidation that spans all of our programs. We have personnel. We have an anti-bullying specialist who's appointed. We have time to meet throughout the year. We have a district-wide person appointed. We have an incident reporting system, both anonymously on our website as well as internally. That's core element number 6. Number 7, we have a thorough procedure. We use Hipster, and we meet regularly to talk about our procedure and how that works, and also reporting. We have ways that reports are taken. They're processed through the Board of Education with communication to the Department of Education that requires SSDS reports to be submitted annually and certified annually. So following this, the different building-based teams collect the documentation and they submit scores in all of the 8 categories based on how many points are awarded. Different indicators have different amounts. There's different max values from 1 to 8. The total you can get is up to a 78, Lincoln School 75, Radcliffe School 77, Spring Garden School 78, Washington School 75, Yannico School 74, Middle School 75, and Nutley High School is 78. And following this public presentation and me reading of the anti-bullying scores, we will submit to the DOE that we went through this process, share this with the board, share this with the public, and we will post it on our website for more people to see. The last box is what we're doing now. I want to thank you for listening through our self-assessment HIB reporting. We will report out the nature of the HIB incidents in October for the last cycle and go through our mandatory reporting for those areas as well. I do want to shift to a different type of presentation. Ian, you can shut that off. Thank you. And you can just leave that down. You can put it up in a bit. But I want to shift the conversation just a little bit. We have so many great things happening in district, even through the challenges we faced in the spring. And one of the things that we're very excited about is just the community support we're starting to receive. We're starting to receive people reaching out to us for support. We're starting to receive information, different types of materials, as well as monies for programs. Proponent Bank reached out probably about a month ago in late August, and they're filing for a grant. They've included many community-based organizations, but one of the things Arlene D'Angelo mentioned, who's with us today, and I'll bring her up in a minute, is funds to support an initiative that we mutually agreed upon. That initiative was esports, something we've gone through a couple different things in district to support, and we're very happy that Proponent Bank made a sizable donation to Nutley Public Schools to support a growing need and club for our students at the high school. So, I went to the ribbon cutting. It was great. They have a new branch over on Kingsland Avenue. Great facility. I want to bring you up to say a couple words and to talk about the donation you're making. Thank you so much, Arlene.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So as Mr. Benya said, I am Arlene D'Angelo. I'm with Proponent Federal Credit Union. And when Proponent applied for the grant funds through the Federal Home Loan Bank of New York, we were able to get $50,000, which we dispersed back into the community, into a lot of nonprofit organizations. And as a result of that, I really thought of the Nutley Public Schools. How else can we put this back into the community, and why not the children? And something that, we can help support and start up. So I'm so honored that we're able to partner and give $10,000 to support the EA Sports program. So that's something that I'm really excited about. I'm really hoping that the students who are part of that program really enjoy it and, make the most of it. But aside of that, I don't know if many of you know, but Proponent Federal Credit Union has been in the community for over 50 years. And we're right here in Nutley. We've been here for a very long time, serving the community and various financial services that we offer. So as all of you here are a part of Nutley, you either live here or work here, you're eligible, if you want to, receive some consultation, know a little bit more about us. I'm happy to, tell you a little bit more at another time. So I can leave my information with Mr. Benya, and he can share that with all of you. But thank you so much. And here you go.
So Arlene brought a check, and when she told me of this news, we had a couple different things where it was needs based. So for our students in our programs, where's the need? One of the things that's growing, and I was part of a conversation with Mayor Kelly, who's here tonight, and Aaron Battaglia, our library media specialist from both the middle school and the high school. They were looking for this opportunity as they see the need in the community, and they're bringing it forward with the starting of a club. So I want to invite Mayor Kelly and Aaron up to the podium just to say a couple words about esports initiatives you're working through and what we're actually doing with this money. So thank you so much. So hang on just a second. We'll get a picture for you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Battaglia. I am currently the library media specialist at John H. Walker Middle School and Nutley High School. So on behalf of the Nutley Board of Education, I am thrilled to welcome you all and express our heartfelt gratitude to Proponent Bank for their incredibly generous donation of $10,000. This contribution will directly support the launch of our district's very first esports program, a program that will provide our students with new opportunities to develop teamwork, leadership, and strategic thinking in an exciting and evolving field. Esports is more than just a game. It's a way to engage students in a growing industry while fostering skills that will serve them well in school and beyond. Thanks to Proponent Bank's partnership, we can offer this initiative program and continue to create an environment where students thrive. Thank you again to Proponent for your commitment to our students and the future of education in Nutley. We look forward to the success this program will bring, and we are proud to have you as part of this journey. In addition, I'd like to take a moment to thank the Nutley Board of Commissioners and extend a warm welcome to Mayor John Kelly, who is with us this evening. We are grateful for their ongoing partnership with the Nutley Board of Ed. On Saturday, September 20th, Nutley hosted its first ever Esports Day, sponsored by Mayor Kelly and the Department of Public Affairs and Health in collaboration with Nutley School. Sorry, this is just very dear to me. We were thrilled to welcome over 60 community members to our newly renovated Library Media Center at the high school, where they participated in a friendly competition featuring Nintendo's Super Smash Bros. Gamers of all ages showcased their skills, and several participants took home prizes. I want to personally thank Mary Kelly and Meredith Blank for their support in making this event such a success, as well as the dedicated students who volunteered countless hours setting up and running the day's activities. Thanks to the generous donation from Proponent Bank and the continued support of the Board of Commissioners, this is just the beginning. We're excited to announce plans to launch an esports club at the high school, with these funds helping to establish and grow the program. And lastly, to all my fellow gamers, get your friends and controllers ready. It's time to show what you've got. Thank you.
Let's do this.
So this is just yet another program that the schools offer that I wish I had when I was growing up. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, but before I went to law school, before I became mayor, I was in the video game industry. I made video games, and this was a program that was not available to me. Video games is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and kids, especially those who participate in esports, they can earn 6-7 figure dollar paychecks. So this is an incredible opportunity for our kids to gain valuable tools that they'll use to hopefully earn a living. And myself and the entire board of commissioners, I can't do what I do without their support. So this is something that's supported by the entire board of commissioners here in Nutley, and we want to thank Proponent for the donation to make their mark here in Nutley, and hopefully Nutley is a destination for esports and esports competitors. Thank you. After you, sir.
Okay, moving on, can I get a motion for approval of the minutes? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, Mr. Benya, can we have your superintendent's report, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I'm happy to report that the 24-25 school year began smoothly across all of our schools. Students returned eager to learn, and staff were well prepared in returning to school this year. We continue to prioritize health, safety, and well-being of our students and staff, ensuring that everyone begins the year in a safe and welcoming environment. Several of our schools have already hosted successful back-to-school nights. Actually, all of them have, providing an opportunity for parents and guardians to meet teachers, learn about curriculum, and hear about goals for the year. Here's a brief overview of the back-to-school nights that we have had so far. Nutley High School held theirs on Thursday, September 26th. This event was well attended, with parents expressing enthusiasm about the school year ahead. The high school staff did a tremendous job of welcoming families and providing valuable information about expectations, student support systems, and extracurricular opportunities. John H. Walker Middle School back-to-school night took place on Wednesday, September 25th. Parents were engaged and appreciated the efforts of the middle school teams in outlining the academic expectations for the year, especially as we continue to focus on bridging any learning gaps from the previous years. Our elementary schools had back-to-school nights at all across the district, including our preschool annex at St. Paul's, with teachers sharing classroom goals, introducing themselves to parents, and reinforcing the critical role of parent-teacher partnerships in fostering student access. I would like to thank our principals. Two of them are here, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Joe Materia. Our teachers, I see many of them here from Yannicott, from the high school. If I missed any, I'm sorry. And our support staff, and I see some support staff here as well, for their hard work and preparation that goes into making these evenings a success. While the start of the school year has been positive overall, I must also address some challenges that we are currently facing. With the business office assessing the sustainability of this budget and future budgets, we have had to make a difficult decision to pause our one-to-one Chromebook initiative in the fourth grade. This year, fourth grade students will share building-based Chromebooks during the day in the classroom. I would like to thank the principals and teachers at our elementary schools for effectively managing a schedule to ensure that students have access to technology resources in the classroom during the day. I would also like to thank many of our PTOs that have agreed to increase our building-based devices by donating Chromebook carts. In a similar way, the district has analyzed its transportation costs and has decided to pause band travel to away football games. We analyzed the invitations we received from away schools, as well as competition schedules and in-district busing needs and expenses. We will continue to provide a robust musical experience for our students, including performances at home games and special events. I want to thank our band directors, students, and parents for their understandings as we navigate the situation. I appreciate the ongoing conversation regarding calculations of GPA and requirements for the Honor Society. Over the past month, I met with current and former students to bring their conversations to the board. We agree that transparency in calculation is important and look to incorporate this as we develop our next program of studies. The counseling department at Nutley High School has completed scheduling changes that have accommodated the vast majority of the requests from study halls to a class. On tonight's agenda, I would like to note a couple of resolutions. First, with Mayor Kelly still here and the rest of the commissioners, support a shared service agreement between the BOE and BOC for our district's mental health clinician and psychiatric services. These professionals provide invaluable support for our students and staff in crisis. In partnering with the township, these professionals will be available to the township and expanded school community for mental health related programming and support. Thank you, Board of Commissioners and Mayor Kelly, for your continued support and partnering in ways to reach our students. On donations, I would like to thank Proponent Bank for their outreach and support for the Growing Esports program at Nutley High School, as well as the Washington School PTO for their donation of scholastic materials. I would like to share Finance Resolution number 25. There is a typo. It should be IDEA funds. Finance Resolution 25 refers to South Bergen Jointure paras. Those paras, we partner with South Bergen Jointure for paras for our ERI program. There are 6 paras for continued support in our emotional regulatory classes. Finally, I would like to note the resolution for the approval of 3 administrators. And I'd like to welcome Ashley Barnes, new VP of Nutley High School. Christina Garigla, a former student and the new VP at John Walker Middle School. And Jennifer Lambert, our new K-12 math supervisor. Each of these candidates went through a rigorous process that involved multiple rounds of panel interviews. I would like to thank the panels that dedicated their time and effort, much of which was after hours, to ensure Nutley has the best candidates from the different application pools. As we transition into fall, the district is looking forward to several seasonal events and activities that help foster school spirit and community engagement. Nutley High School's fall sports season is off to an exciting start. Our student athletes have been working hard, and I encourage everyone to come out and support the teams. Fall clubs and extracurriculars are ramping up, offering students a variety of opportunities to get involved in activities that enrich their educational experience. Nutley High School held a club fair on Friday, September 20th. There are many opportunities for our students here in Nutley. As we move deeper into this season, we are preparing for the traditional fall celebrations, such as our district-wide Halloween festivities, which are always a highlight for our students, especially in our elementary schools. We continue to prioritize the mental health and well-being of our students. Our guidance counselors, student support teams, and director of student support interventions are actively working to ensure that students have access to the resources they need. We're also in the process of planning several initiatives for October, which is National Bullying Prevention Month, to promote kindness, acceptance, and inclusion across our schools. The Week of Respect is October 7 through 11. Throughout the district, there are many lessons and events planned for this time, including group sessions offered throughout the district surrounding respect and managing difficult conversations, as well as daily reminders of how to operate in a respectful community. Our high school will also host a Spirit Week, which will lead up to the welcoming of our alumni back to district at our annual 2024 Homecoming Day on October 12th. School Violence Awareness Week is October 21st through 25th, and we appreciate and look forward to partnering with Lieutenant Detective Padilla for programming at our secondary level. Finally, in New Jersey, boards of education must invite a student representative to sit with the board at regularly scheduled meetings. The role of the student representative at a board meeting is to serve as a liaison between the student body and the board. I would like to welcome our student representative for 24-25, Om Pagdal, to the board meeting, seated over here. Om is our student council president, as well as a track athlete in district, an AP student, and he has an interest in finance. And he is a student in our dual enrollment business spreadsheet application course with Caldwell University. Om is looking to attend business school after his time here at Nutley, and we welcome him for the school year. 1 second, Om, I'm not finished. Then Mike goes, then you go. Don't worry. You plenty. Looking ahead, as we settle into the school year, our district remains committed to providing a high-quality education for all of our students. We will continue to review and assess our instructional programs and work collaboratively with staff and families to address any challenges that arise. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work and dedication to making the start of the year a success. I look forward to a productive and positive school year ahead. That is my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Banya. Next is our board secretary report, Mr. DeVita.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to highlight, excuse me, one of the resolutions that we have on for approval for tonight's meeting. The board will be approving our insurance broker services. But I just want to give everybody a summary of the steps that were taken in the selection process. A request for proposal was advertised in the newspaper, and all of the proposals were also sent to all of the vendors that are members of the New Jersey Association of School Business Officials that are in the category of insurance broker. And after that was done, 8 companies submitted proposals from across the state. And from that, the full board interviewed 4 companies in the first round. In the second round, we narrowed it down to 3 companies, and they presented PowerPoint presentations on how they would handle things in the future. And after hearing all of the presentations, IMAC is being recommended tonight for appointment. So I just wanted to clarify, even though the resolution says that they're being appointed as an extraordinary unsatisfiable service without competitive bidding, there was a competitive process. It was just done through the proposal process, and the board did have a very rigorous selection process by meeting with them. So I just wanted to clarify that. And we are also extending our professional services through the end of the calendar year. And we are in the process of sending out requests for proposals for those as well. So over the next couple of months, we'll be approving those services. Thank you.
Mr. DeVita, I just think we need to just add that our state monitor, Jeanette Makis, was also involved in that process of reviewing the RFP, involved in all aspects of it as well.
Yes, correct.
Okay, Mr. Bogda, I'm sorry, is that correct? Pronounce, okay. Our student representative, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Om Pagdal, and I'm the student council president. And I just want to talk about kind of the things we've been implementing into the school year so far. So it starts with our logo. Me, Mr. Williams, and the rest of the officers developed. So we believe that unity, empowerment, and representation are like the key points of our school. And the best way to like establish that and make everybody feel represented is through having student council meetings and just having the school student body feel heard. So starting next week, we are trying to push for a Raider Fest, sports activities, maybe esports, depending on student interest, to get everybody's input into it. Additionally, we're going to be working with a couple other clubs for the Week of Respect that goes into October. We also had AP Scholar Awards given out to many of our students, as Mr. Benya previously stated. October 12th, next Saturday, is also the homecoming game. Additionally, for seniors, there are senior college application panels to assist with the process, financial aid, scholarships, all that. Also on the October 22nd, there will be a Board of Election training for the student assistants working with the election. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bogda. You're welcome to stay with us, but if you feel like you need to go, don't feel obligated. But thank you. Our committee reports, Ms. Stanchek Martin, could you please take academic?
Yes, Mr. President. The Academic Committee met on September 25th. Ms. Zullo joined the committee to discuss the annual spring softball trip to Florida. Ms. Lambert, who was on the board agenda for approval for the position for K through 12 math supervisor, joined the committee to discuss her experience and her vision for the K through 12 math program. Mr. Banya and Ms. Loconsolo reviewed the data presentation on the district spring NJSLA scores and the AP data. Mr. Banya reviewed the academic calendar, including no homework weekends, which can be found on the district's website. Ms. Loconsolo shared the information on iReady and IXL learning platforms. These online platforms will allow for individualized instruction for students based on their specific needs. It will also provide data to support teachers in planning for small group instruction. Mr. Banya shared the update on the district's plans for student one-to-one devices. He also shared information on honor societies currently offered at the high school and the process for reviewing criteria for those programs. Ms. Loconsolo shared plans in place for the professional learning half day on October 11th. Sessions for staff will include iReady K through 3, IXL, Common Assessment revisions, NJSLA evidence statement analysis, Handle with Care, and school avoidance refusal strategies. Ms. Loconsolo shared information on the health opt-out letter that was emailed to all parents the first week of school, as it is each year. The letter explains to parents the procedure for opting out of instruction on specific health topics in accordance with district policy. Mr. Banya provided a special education update. Ms. Loconsolo revealed field trips and PD requests. Mr. Banya provided an update on personnel and legal matters, and our next academic committee meeting is scheduled for October 17th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stanchek Martin. Mr. Kaczynski, Administration.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Administration Committee met on September 19th. Mr. Banya reviewed the HIB reports that were currently slated for first reading. Mr. Banya discussed concerns brought forward regarding the academic calendar. Mr. Banya provided an overview of the NJSLA spring score presentation, which we saw tonight. Mr. Banya highlighted resolutions for the September 30th board agenda. Mr. Banya discussed the changes to job descriptions. Mr. Banya also discussed personnel matters. Our next scheduled meeting is October 24th.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. Mr. Battaglia, Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on September 20th. In that meeting, Ms. Makis updated the committee as to the status of our 23-24 audit. We got some initial findings, which were largely in line with our expectations. Thankfully, this audit and information is coming to us much earlier than it did last year. We expect to have a formal sit down with our auditors within the next several weeks. Mr. Banya and Ms. Makis reviewed board resolutions for the September board meeting. We'd like to thank the administration for providing the agenda and resolutions to the board far in advance. It helps the board understand what the topics are going to be, and bring up and discuss key items ahead of the meeting. We discussed several facility projects, including but not limited to Lincoln School, auditorium, and several other items associated with some of our other buildings and the expansion of the pre-K program. The committee discussed key financial items, some of which have already been mentioned, including the Chromebooks, travel, and a few other initiatives that we would like to see the district start, esports as being one of them. Mrs. Bakis and Mr. Bain had discussed several personnel items, and our next board meeting is not currently scheduled, but we should be meeting within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Battaglia. Mr. Scotty, policy?
Yes, Mr. President. The Policy Committee met on Tuesday, September 24th at 6 p.m. The committee was provided with policies to review prior to the meeting. The committee reviewed and discussed 63 policies from the district's policy book in areas of program teaching staff members, support staff, students, finances, property, operations, and community. After discussion, the committee moved 63 policies to first reading. The meeting adjourned, and the next meeting of the Policy Committee is to be determined during this month.
Thank you, Mr. Scotty. We now come to that portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on reports, resolutions, and all school-related matters. Our board regulations number 0167 allot 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once only after all others wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to state your name and address each and every time you address the board. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, you could come up. Just state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carla Curcio. I live at 499 Center Street. So my son is in kindergarten at Radcliffe, so this is a new experience for me. And we went to back to school night, and I guess one of the most important things that was brought to my attention as a Radcliffe parent was that Mrs. Alfaro, the school counselor, is now being split between Radcliffe and Spring Garden. And it's a little, it's very concerning because, you know, when we were speaking with her and when we heard her talk, she said she's focusing, you know, a lot of her time on Hibbs, which obviously, from my understanding, that is part of her job. But as a new parent coming in, you know, I'm looking at the situation and I'm like, so wait a minute. She's kind of going back and forth. Each school's only getting 50% of her, and she's focusing more on Hibbs. And in my mind, right away, I think, well, they might have more Hibbs because she's potentially not in Radcliffe full-time or in Spring Garden full-time. She's not, you know, there to maybe do, and I don't know what her program is. You know, I'm guessing, like, does she do, like, you know, behavior training? Like, I know she's gone into the kindergarten once or twice to talk about, you know, like, I guess keeping your hands to yourself, like things that you would have to teach kindergartners. But in my mind, I'm thinking that is such an important resource. And keeping the kids safe is the number one priority, right in front of education, obviously. And I feel like we need to do something to get her back at Radcliffe full-time. Like, what can we do as a community to get Spring Garden someone full-time and to get Radcliffe Mrs. Alfaro back? Can you help us with that?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Benya.
I want to thank you for your feedback. I couldn't agree with you more in many of the statements that you made. I think our counseling resources are vital to our students, to our buildings, how they operate. Unfortunately, investigating, she's the anti-bullying specialist, and you know, we had to, when we looked at where we're in the budget, sustainability, all the staffing we've added over the past couple of years, we kind of had to scale back to several years ago. And several years ago, we split counselors. The number of counselors were not the same as they were last year, for example. We are constantly looking at ways to make our budget sustainable, to refocus funds to the available resources we need. This is definitely an area, you brought up an area which we're highlighting as well. And just know that if resources are needed in an acute fashion at one of our buildings district-wide, we will move district resources where they need to be to support any of our students at any time.
So is there anything that can be done as far as resources? And again, I'm just kind of, there's so much talk out there on social media and you hear different people say different things. And as I was reading some old articles and looking at some of the past budgets, I was looking at the money that was spent on the parking lot next to the junior high, and it was like $328,000 in a year, the years before budget. And I said to myself, well, wasn't that supposed to be for a referendum to extend the junior high, but it was bought by the BOC before the referendum passed? So in my mind, and again, like I'm speaking just off the cuff out of my head, why can't we sell the property and use that money for the children? Because there's so many different things I'm hearing out there that were, this was canceled, that was canceled, there's not enough this. Like the other day, my son came home and like most of his lunch wasn't eaten. And I'm like, is anyone watching the kindergartners? And then I ran into someone else that was like, oh, well, there's less people in the lunchroom. And I'm like, why do we have so much less resources? And I feel like we could be doing more as a community. And I know most of you have kids or grandkids in the school system. Why are we not considering, you know what, we don't need that parking lot. Like I get it. It was supposed to be for an extension. It didn't work out. Is the school going to extend in the future? Nobody knows. But right now, we need money for these kids. That's the priority, you know. And I graduated here. My parents did. My family's been here forever, and it's heartbreaking to see so many resources like being taken away or cut. Why can't we just sell the property?
So the parking lot, are you referring to, that's the one that's on Franklin Avenue?
Yeah, next to the junior high.
Yeah, so that was not purchased by the Board of Education. That
I
was
know, but it
purchased
was-
by the
yes.
Board of Commissioners. And
Yes.
although it's the same township, it's two separate entities.
Mm-hmm.
But as Mr. Benya said, even if we were to sell that piece of property
Mm-hmm.
and bring in some money, it has to be sustainable. So if there was an influx of money that would allow us to do something this year, it would have to be sustainable so that you can continue to have that year after year. And that's kind of the challenge, right? So even if we had an influx of extra money and allowed us to do some of the things that a lot of the residents want us to do,
Mhm.
it's not sustainable because those funds would not be there next year, right? So we would be doing the same thing next year that occurred, last year. So that's the challenge because there's a lot of resources, right, for all different things in the district. It's not just one particular thing. So the budget has to be sustainable, and that's the challenge.
No, and I definitely understand that part of it because I went to our first PTO meeting, and that's one of the things that Mr. Battaglia had mentioned was the sustainability. So in my mind, like, okay, what can that money do? It can do something. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's better than nothing. It's better than not having the money. So maybe take a small program and say, okay, this is sustainable, this little piece, or these 2 teachers are sustainable for 3 years. It's better than like not having the money. It's just something to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know,
We
I mean,
appreciate
and
you coming up.
again, it's for the kids. It's not, I mean.
Absolutely.
we're
And we
gonna-
thank you for your comments. We appreciate what you're saying and that you care for the school district. It's, when it comes to finances, budgets have to be sustainable, and that's a challenge. Also, that piece of property was purchased with it's with the goal of, at some point in the future, being able to expand the middle school, having possibly a 5th or 6th grade middle school as well, inclusive with the 7th and 8th. So it was, years ago, that was discussions that were had, and the purpose of that was so that a developer didn't come along, purchase that property, put a mixed use building right next to the school, and then at some point when a future board, I know we've tried in the past years to pass 2 referendums, but at some point, some board is going to be able to have that property to be able to expand the middle school. So it's challenging on a lot of different levels, but we do appreciate you coming up and giving us your concerns.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments?
Hi,
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Denise Ballou, 136 Center Street. I just had a couple of questions. There's been a lot of talk about transparency from the time when our fiscal troubles started at the beginning of the year until now. When we received our back to school letter from Mr. Banya, there was a selection in here, sentence that said, at the secondary level, all of our electives, athletics, and extracurricular offerings are available to students. I do know for a fact that there were electives eliminated, so I'm wondering, I mean, I know for a fact that the theater electives were eliminated, hearing talk of others that I cannot speak to myself. I'm just wondering how you can put in a letter, everything's the same when clearly it's not.
I think the nature of that, the exact electives have not been offered. We're obviously downsized staff and available sections are lower. Every year due to enrollment, we have some electives that run and some do not. So having said that, some of our electives, I believe there's 4 electives that I'm aware of that are not running due to staffing. The rest are running.
Okay, and I think you very briefly touched on this earlier, and I missed what it was that you said about electives and study halls, because that was going to be one of my questions. My son had put down 6 solid classes, financial literacy being one of them, required to graduate, which from what I'm hearing now, there was space in all along, but it was instead dumped in a study hall, as a lot of other students were. Is that what you were speaking on?
Yes. Over the course of the summer, I believe there were many students placed in study halls when they picked classes. The classes were not available to them. As we returned in September, in our guidance department, they did not work over the summer due to financial reasons. They were able to work and process many of the secondary requests students had, especially freshmen or students coming into our building, to get them into classes out of study halls. And I believe that has occurred.
Yes.
The information I have is that the vast majority of requests we've worked through to find students a class.
Yeah, so and it obviously worked out positively for us. I was just wondering if that was something that was going to continue.
No, I think every year we have students enter study halls. I think when we went out to look at the rotating drop schedule, we went to some of the high performing districts in the area. We found that about half the student body took study halls. That was a part of a normal operation of our rotating drop schedule. I think we had slightly more than this year. Obviously, we did have some electives that didn't run, and we had some staffing things we had to go through. Some class sizes went up slightly, but overall, they're still in pretty good shape, I would say. And I do think that the primary choice was not available to many incoming freshmen or even sophomores, but and that was compounded by the fact that our guidance department, we were not able to fund their work over the summer, which is not a good thing, something we do not want to do. But when they returned, working with Mrs. Gerkins, we were able to honor many of their requests and help parents and students get to the classes that they need to get to. So can I project if this will happen again next year? I do think we have to build a sustainable staffing. We have to look at all aspects of our schedule and the pluses and minuses of running a rotating drop schedule. And we have to take a look at where to best offer electives and classes to support most of our students' needs.
Okay. Something totally unrelated to that, just a quick question. The offices that are being rented for the Board of Education above Valley National Bank, I understand the district is paying over $17,000 a month for that. Is that roughly correct?
Mike, I believe that's roughly correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just doing the math in my head, that's the equivalent of 4 first-year teachers or 8 paraprofessionals. Have you looked into the possibility of something more affordable?
Yes, I have. I mean, I think along with the counseling conversation, sustainability of that space, having the hindsight now based on when we were moving that space was originally occupied to open up preschool classes that are funded by the state. So at that time, understanding where we were, I understand why we did that. Having that now, to your point, the district is exploring opportunities to relocate or to move out of that area.
I realize it could be difficult to get out of a lease, but I would think with the state now kind of in control.
Mrs. Ballou, we're on the same page with what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, those were my questions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Hi, good evening. My name is Mrs. Sarah Marshall, 261 Franklin Ave. What happened with One Nutley?
What happened to One Nutley? But it's still, you know, it still exists. We still have a relationship with our Board of Commissioners. You could see it witnessed tonight by some of the, you know, the things that we're doing with them.
And where are you guys what is the plan for One Nutley? Because I haven't heard about it in a long time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I haven't heard about it in a long time, so I just wondered what was the plan for that? Like, what is the initiative or the collaboration?
Well, we're always looking to find ways to collaborate. That was tonight's a perfect example with the two of the items that were on the agenda.
Oh.
But again, the last, you know, the last 6 months have been very challenging. So there was a lot of things that the district had to work through. But we have an excellent relationship with the Board of Commissioners. We communicate as often as we can. We always look to see if there's ways that we can work together. Tonight is, you know, like I said, the two items that are on the agenda are clear that we're still, you know, working closely together.
Okay. Also, just piggybacking off of the other two ladies who spoke, I'm here out of a commitment to one of the lunch personnel at the school. I promised that I would come, so I'm here. I know that their hours have been cut, and it's very hard for me to see. You know, speaking of HIB, speaking of, you know, 17,000 for rent, to see people that have raised my children. I have multiple, like from 21 down to 4. I've been through the high school into the preschool program with my children here. Aging people who we've depended on as pillars in our schools to raise our children, essentially being pushed out, and good-natured parents stepping up to volunteer in those spaces, essentially eliminating their positions. That's very hard as a community member and a mother, and just please reflect on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Hi, I'm Angela Melchione, art teacher at the high school, also a parent of a second grader and a fourth grader at Washington School. And I just want to say I'm absolutely thrilled that my fourth grader doesn't get a Chromebook, so thank you. And also, I also want to just give a shout out to the specials teachers at Washington School that make my kids' days so much better. So they're doing a great job. Thank you.
They are. Thank you so much for your feedback.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Hi, my name is Ivan Marchenko, 31 Edison Avenue. I have a kid in a fourth grade, and related to the Chromebooks issue, basically, last year we finished the third grade and we were under pressure, everybody gonna get Chromebook. This year, once year started, we didn't have any heads up, there are not gonna be any Chromebooks. So this part would be nice in the future to have at least a heads up of that such a change. And the second part of my question, basically, why can't we bring our own Chromebook to the school? Basically, I believe some parents going to be able to buy it. It's not like a big issue, but
yes,
it's forbidden.
that is, and thank you. That is something that the district is looking at with the administration. As far as being able to bring your own device to school, there are some challenges that we have to overcome when it comes to that. It's things that we just have to work with our IT department. For instance, when somebody brings their device to school, right, you can't control exactly what's on that device. So, although we can control the network, but we can't control if somebody has something saved on a hard drive or, something on that device. So there are challenges which we're looking at, and that is something that we'd like to offer it, maybe at the upper levels, 9 through 12, to see if they could, want to bring in their own device, which would allow us then to repurpose some of those other Chromebooks and bring them down to the elementary schools.
So yeah, I totally understand that there is security issues, and basically what my older kid, she brings Chromebook to home. It's not an issue. She can install whatever she wants. It's a Chromebook. We definitely can discuss some requirements from a IT department of school. Like if they say like this model, go and buy it. I believe many of parents would agree to buy them. We can at least ask parents if they want to buy and see how many parents gonna be able to provide their own device, so we can actually see if school can, like is in class, can be able to work on Chromebooks completely. Because right now, few Chromebooks on a class, and I don't believe my first grade kid gonna be able to effectively log into the device during the class, log out of the device with her own account. It's not something which is going to be working properly right now. Just wanted to raise that concern because, like, I understand each teacher is going to be spending a whole bunch of time just to try, like, organize all kids working on the same devices. And fourth grade, it's not going to work. It's just my opinion.
Yes, no, thank you for that.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Bain, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I want to thank you for your feedback. I think the moving forward the budget, this something definitely we as our business office came online, our state monitor came into play, and it impacted the decision to pause.
Yeah, I understand how
the
it happened.
Chromebook. So I do thank you for that feedback, and I appreciate your willingness to say maybe we could look at this a different way. And I think this board is. I know conversations have started locally, and we appreciate all the ideas being presented tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to come up? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion to close the public comment portion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, Ms. Dancheck Martin, academic?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move academic resolutions 1 through 3 as written.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Balsamo,
Yes.
Mr. Battaglia,
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin,
Yes.
Dr. Dalia,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk,
Yes.
Mr. Scotty, Mr. Ferraro.
Yes. Mr. Kaczynski, administration?
Yes, Mr. President, I move resolutions 1 through 5.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Balsamo,
Yes.
Mr. Battaglia,
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin,
Yes.
Dr. Dalia,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk,
Yes.
Mr. Scotty, Mr. Ferraro.
Yes. Mr. Battaglia, finance?
Mr. President, I'd like to move resolutions 1 through 28 as written.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. President, quick comment, just to extend my gratitude towards the generosity of the community, specifically item 11, where we have Proponent Bank and also the PTO at Washington School donating to the district. We could all complain about the situation, and we are all on board with the complaint department, believe me. But to actually take action against what we're up against, I think is a noble and charitable event that I do appreciate the community's response. I really appreciate the teachers' response, the administrators' response, and the parents' response to adversity. That's what this is about. And the charity that is involved in this is noble, and I want to just extend a great debt of gratitude to, and I have the feeling more is coming, and I really think that's what makes this community special. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Dalia. Yes, absolutely. We thank everyone for all their hard work and efforts, and for the community coming together. Okay, roll call. I'm sorry. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mr. Battaglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Dr. Dalia?
Yes, with exception to take no part, number 13.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Scotty? Mr. Ferraro?
Yes. Mr. Scotty, policy, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move policy resolution 1 is written.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mr. Battaglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Dr. Dalia?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Scotty?
Yes.
Mr. Ferraro?
Yes. Mr. Dealer, you take personnel, please?
Mr. President, I'd like to move personnel items 1 and 2
Second.
as seen.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mr. Battaglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin?
Yes.
Dr. Dalia?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Mrs. Quirk?
Yes.
Mr. Scotty? Mr. Ferraro?
Yes. Any old business to come before the board? I guess it's old business now, but Mayor Kelly, want to thank you again, you and the Board of Commissioners for obviously the relationship with the Board of Education here and your willingness, the Board of Commissioners, to be there to assist us. So, and thank you for all your efforts tonight with your department and the Board of Commissioners. Any new business to come before the board?
Mr. President, can we just personally welcome the new administration coming on board?
Yes, you can.
I've been on the board for many years, and most of you know, it's always a pleasure to see friends, family, friends, people that have worked hard in the district, people that I've known all their tenure on the board, on the district, to move up through the system and come on as our vice president of middle school. My only upsetting point is that my grandson just left the middle school, so he's going to miss your talent. But Dennis has them now, has both of them now, so I'm sure he'll take care of them. But I'm so happy that you're moving up with us. To the other new ladies, you've got some big work ahead of you. Filling the math position, Leanne Martin is going to be missed, but I'm sure you'll fill her spot. And with the vice principal at the high school, God bless you. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. You're feeling better, which we're all
Yeah,
happy about.
I am feeling better.
Yes. And yes, thank you. Welcome aboard. And we look forward to working together and all the good things that you're going to do for our district. Thank you. Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss personnel. Be it further resolved that the results of the discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education or when the reasons for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exist. Can I get a motion to adjourn into executive session? Thank you, everyone.
We got a picture.